I'd like to call the meeting of the Development Review Board to order, May 2nd, 2017.
What good time you did?
Okay, first thing on our agenda this evening are the minutes from our last meeting.
Any changes to the minutes? Ron?
Yo.
You have changes to the minutes?
Pardon?
Do you have changes to the minutes?
Important stuff going on here.
I don't see any, Barry.
I'll move to approve.
Barry moves it, Charles seconds, all in favor? Okay.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is a disclosure of any ex parte communications or conflict of interest regarding matters before us this evening.
Anybody have any? Let's see.
I do have an announcement. I actually will be presenting on behalf of the town of Bennington and the Vermont Agency of Transportation regarding the rail trail. So I will step away from the table and present and stay away until the decision is made. So, let's see. Our first hearing this evening is Greater Bennington Interfaith Community Services at 121 Depot Street. These folks are looking for approval of a change of use for a medical clinic and a food pantry and some other programs there at 121 Depot Street. This application was preliminarily reviewed by the application review panel. They did recommend approval, although they did ask that the applicant be here to make a brief presentation and answer any questions the board may have. Okay. And Charlie, if we could just ask you to sign in before you present this evening.
Before he starts the presentation, maybe we should tell the board that the plan that they're going to submit has the boundaries marked on it, plan boundaries marked. That was subdivided a number of years ago.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Charlie Jingo. I live here in Bennington, and I'm on the board. I chair the board of Greater Bennington Interfaith Community Services. We recently purchased the 121 Depot Street building. The programs that we are planning to move into there are programs that currently are in the community, exist in the community, kind of on the other side of Main Street. We're down located right now. We have all of our programs in the First Baptist Church down on East Main Street, kind of across from the Mahar's funeral home area. The programs that we're going to have going into the 121 Depot Street, with your approval, we will have medical exam rooms for the Bennington Free Clinic that we've been operating now for just a little over 8 years. We opened up the free clinic back in 2009. And in the space that we are going into, the 121 Depot Street, we would have a number of medical exam rooms for our volunteer physicians and nurses to see patients there. A second program that we will operate out of there is the kitchen cupboard. When we opened that program about 5+ years ago, we had operated out of the Gage Street area, kind of catty corner from the rec center. That building was foreclosed on by a local bank. The absentee landlords got into financial difficulties. When they foreclosed, we had to move. And we moved our kitchen cupboard operations into the Baptist church also. And we had to make accommodations for our schedule, and we have to set up and tear down every time we operate the kitchen cupboard. It's a food distribution facility that serves lots and lots of people from the Bennington community and several other of the surrounding towns that come to our program. We will operate out of the 121 Depot Street also our offices. We have a number of part-time staff members who will be located in that space also. And one of the things that we are currently operating right now out of the middle school that we also hope to move into the 121 Depot Street program is a program that we call Food Fit. At the middle school, there is this wonderful setup. They have a classroom that has 6 identical kitchens in it. And people who use our various programs, some of our clinic programs, our food distribution programs, and others, come there on a there's a session that just started last evening, a 9-week session, and they learn to cook some of the nutritious produce, etc., that we have come through the clinic. They prepare the meals together. They sit down and they eat the meals together, so that there's an opportunity to also have community there. So those are the core programs that we would be operating out of the 121 Depot Street facility. We have some programs that are affiliated with the clinic that would operate out of the program too. We do a program called Health Navigation. We get people connected with one of the Vermont healthcare programs, one of health insurance programs that the state offers. And that operates right now out of our space down on Main Street at the Baptist Church, and it would continue to operate out of the 121 Depot Street also. So that's what we hope to move into the building at 121 Depot Street. And I'd be delighted to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Anybody have any questions? See any? Thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome.
Anyone else like to speak?
Charlie said it all.
Okay. What's the board's pleasure? Charlie?
Make a motion to approve.
Charlie moves to approve.
Second.
Barry seconds. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Guys, we're all set.
Thank you very much.
Charlie, you ready for me to proceed?
I'm ready.
Okay. I know you all know me, but just in case there's folks at home who don't, I'm Dan Monks. I'm the Assistant Town Manager for the Town of Bennington, and I'm here today to present to the board a proposed rail trail. The reason it's before you this evening is because there are some minor impacts to the floodplain in the vicinity of the rail trail. I'm going to make a really brief presentation, but I'll answer any questions you want if I don't cover them in my presentation. So what I'll just do a quick overview. The project, the rail trail project, obviously will follow along a pre-existing railroad bed. The proposal is to remove the rails and ties from essentially River Street, where Bennington, the former Bennington Station is, now the Bennington Station Restaurant. It'll go northward all the way to essentially it'll cross the Furnace Brook and terminate essentially in the vicinity of the Applegate housing project. There will be another associated project with that north of that, which will be north of Route 279. There'll be what's called a runaround track, and that's for the railroad to use. It would allow for a train to engine to essentially go from the front of the train to the back, so that they can bring cars out from a dead end rail siding. On the information that I submitted to you, if you look at sheets 1, 2, and 3 of the colored sheet, I circled in black the areas that are impacted by the floodplain regulations. There will be no significant filling, just some grading, and obviously the removal of ties and the rails themselves. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. This project has been around for a long time. I've been working on it for over a decade, and we may actually begin construction of this project hopefully next year, next construction season, most likely in the late summer or fall, if all the permits fall into place, both state and federal. happy to answer any questions you have. This project's been on my plate for a long time, so I'm intimately familiar with it. So if you have any questions, shoot, and I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions? Bill?
There's no wetlands mitigation?
No, we do not. We've been very careful to have any real impacts on wetlands. If there's any wetlands impact, it's de minimis. The reason is existing railroad bed, going to go right on top of that, so there's virtually no impacts on wetlands.
Is it a bicycle path and footpath or what?
It'll be a bike ped path. It's called a multi-use path. It will be paved from River Street to essentially just past the Aldi store, and then once it crosses Orchard Road there, it will turn to a gravel or cinder path. So it will be paved. It'll be 10 feet wide from River Street to Orchard Road, and then it will be an 8-foot wide gravel path to the Applegate complex.
What is the surface going to be there? What's the surface, what's the paving going to be?
Well, it'll be a bituminous, pavement, again, from River Street to Orchard, and then they'll use probably SurePack to dress up the existing rail bed. Obviously, that rail bed's pretty stable. It was handling pretty heavy equipment for a long time, so we don't expect to have to do a lot to the base. It'll be more about removing the rails and the ties, and obviously there's some vegetation there we have to remove, and just cleaning that up and making sure that the shoulders are cleaned up as well.
How's it being paid for?
It is paid for 90% from a federal and state grant. There is a 10% local match, which has been in reserve now for well over a decade. The voters approved that reserve many years ago. So we do have the match. We expect the project to cost about $1 million, and we have $100,000 in reserve. So there should be no current impact on the taxpayer. That money is already in reserve for this
Jane?
project.
I know there's a proposed walkway from the two housing projects on Willow Road. It goes through the swamp.
Yes.
Does this connect to that in any way?
Yes, it will. It does in that it will go. You can connect to it from the Applegate project to the Willowbrook project. So you can do a loop.
Okay, but the creek, the Furnace Brook runs right along Willowbrook, and so you've got to be able to get across from one to the other.
Right. So you'll cross the Furnace Brook on the rail trail, and then there'll be a trail connecting to the Applegate complex, and then that trail will connect to the Willowbrook Applegate path that goes to the Molly Stark School. So it will be you can basically do a loop.
Good.
Molly Stark to this trail to Applegate to Willowbrook.
Then the other thing is, how does it connect to the Ninja Trail?
Well, the most likely location will be in the vicinity of Kosher Drive, and we may connect it through Hicks Avenue to where the footbridge is. That's where the Ninja Trail. So that's one of the locations. We may also connect it across Benmont Avenue into the Ninja Trail, because as you may know, Benmont Avenue will be improved to accommodate bike ped as well, and that is the Benmont Avenue corridor is parallel to the rail trail corridor, so we want to make connections throughout that as well. So it's a very, very good question. We want to make multiple connections so all these pathways can be easily accessed by bicyclists and pedestrians, and safely accessed. So.
Dan, so am I correct in assuming that the only reason we're here is because part of this is in the flood hazard zone?
That's
all
correct.
I'm concerned about.
That's correct. The state of Vermont floodplain manager recommended, in fact insisted, that given it's a state and town project, even if it would likely be exempt as a private project, just to make sure we cover all our bases and the federal government is happy and we can check the box for our grant requirements, that you folks have the opportunity to review it.
Very little fill being used, 23 cubic yards and 54.
Yeah, it's very, very, very minor impact.
Like a low.
It's an improvement to existing infrastructure.
Any other questions? Does the board have to approve this?
Yeah.
Yes, yep.
Barry?
I'll move to approve as
Barry
presented.
move to approve.
Second.
Ron seconds. All in favor?
Thank you.
All set.
You'll hear from Dan in the morning.
Thank you.
Beat me to it.
I don't believe, unless there's some surprise, that we'll have a meeting in 2 weeks, so you'll be off until June, very likely. And unless there's any other business.
Need a motion to adjourn?
You got it?
Bill moves to adjourn. Charles seconds. All in favor?
Thanks, everybody.